Hey there, remember the Atari 2600? Of course you do. It was the console that started it all for many of us. The joystick, the cartridges, the pixelated graphics, the nostalgia. Today we're taking a trip back in time to 1982, a year when the world was introduced to one of the most infamous video games ever created. We're talking about E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial for the Atari 2600. This game was supposed to be a blockbuster, riding on the coattails of the hugely successful movie. Buckle up because this is one bumpy ride. This game is infamous. It's a legendary disaster. But why? What went so horribly wrong? We're diving right into the heart of it. This game is a relic from a simpler time, a time when video games were still finding their footing, a time when games were hard, really hard. You didn't have save points or tutorials. You had to figure things out on your own. A time when joysticks only had one button. Imagine that, just one button to control everything. It was a different kind of challenge. It was a different world, a world where every pixel counted, and every game was an adventure. But even back then, E.T. stood out. Not for the right reasons though. It was a game that left players scratching their heads. It was weird, frustrating, and kind of amazing all at the same time. How could something so anticipated turn out so confusing? We're going to explore why this game became the poster child for bad game design, from its rushed development to its baffling gameplay mechanics. Get ready to fall into pits, lots of pits. The game was notorious for its endless, frustrating pits that seemed impossible to escape. Prepare to be confused by the gameplay. The objectives were unclear and the controls were clunky. It was a perfect storm of bad design. We're going to relive the E.T. experience from the moment you insert the cartridge to the inevitable frustration that follows. So grab your joystick, adjust your tracking knob, and get ready to go back to 1982. We're diving deep into the history, the hype, and the ultimate downfall of this notorious game. This is the story of E.T., a tale of ambition, failure, and the lessons learned from one of the most infamous games in history. I'm the classic and retro gamer. Let's go. 1982 E.T. the movie was huge. Everyone loved that little alien. He was cute, funny, and he just wanted to go home. So when Atari announced they were making an E.T. game, people went nuts. Stores couldn't keep E.T. toys on the shelves, kids were wearing E.T. pajamas, and everyone wanted a piece of the action. Atari knew they had a goldmine on their hands. They paid a ton of money for the rights to make the game. They were sure it would be the biggest game of all time. But there was one small problem. They only had 5 weeks to make it. 5 weeks. That's not a lot of time to make a game, especially not a game based on a blockbuster movie. But Atari was determined. They put their best programmer on the job. His name was Howard Scott Warshaw. Howard worked day and night. He barely slept. He ate candy bars for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. He was pushing himself to the limit. But the deadline was looming. The pressure was on. Atari needed this game to be a hit. They were counting on it to save their Christmas season. But as the deadline approached, it became clear that something was wrong. The game was buggy, the graphics were bad, and the gameplay was, well, it was confusing to say the least. Section 4, Critical Crash Landing E.T.'s Fall from Grace. When the game finally hit store shelves, it was a disaster. Gamers were confused, critics were harsh, and sales were abysmal. The game was nothing like the movie. It was clunky, frustrating, and just plain weird. Players spent more time falling into pits than they did saving Elliot. The graphics were terrible. E.T. looked more like a blob of pixels than a lovable alien. And the gameplay was repetitive and boring. It was a far cry from the magical experience that gamers were expecting. Atari had made a huge mistake. They had rushed the game to market, and it backfired spectacularly. E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial for the Atari 2600 became the poster child for bad video games. Section 5. The Atari Dig, Burying the Past, and Millions of Cartridges. The failure of E.T. was a major blow to Atari. Released in 1982, the game was rushed to market in just 5 weeks to capitalize on the holiday season. Unfortunately, the game was riddled with bugs and confusing gameplay, leading to widespread disappointment among players. The company lost millions of dollars. Their reputation was tarnished. Atari had invested heavily in the game, expecting it to be a blockbuster hit. Instead, it became a financial disaster, contributing to the company's decline. And the video game industry went into a tailspin. The market was flooded with low-quality games, leading to a loss of consumer confidence. Many gaming companies went bankrupt, and the industry faced a severe downturn. rumors began to circulate that Atari had buried millions of unsold ET cartridges in a landfill in New Mexico. The story became legend. People speculated about the reasons behind such a drastic measure. Was it an attempt to erase the failure from memory, or simply a way to dispose of unsellable stock? And while Atari has never confirmed the truth of the legend, it has only added to the mystique of ET the video game. The mystery surrounding the burial site captured the imagination of gamers and historians alike. The Atari Dig, as it came to be known, became a symbol of the excesses of the early video game industry. In 2014, a team of filmmakers and archaeologists decided to uncover the truth. They organized an excavation at the rumored site in Alamogordo, New Mexico. It was a reminder that even the biggest companies could make mistakes. The excavation revealed that the legend was true. Thousands of ET cartridges were indeed buried there. This discovery was a stark reminder of the consequences of poor business decisions and the volatile nature of the gaming industry. And it showed that the public's appetite for video games was not infinite. The crash of 1983 led to a re-evaluation of the industry, paving the way for a more sustainable and innovative future. The lessons learned from this period continue to influence the gaming world today, reminding us of the importance of quality and consumer trust. Section 6 ETS Extra-Terrestrial Trivia. Fun facts from beyond the stars. Okay nerds, time for some trivia. Did you know that E.T. was programmed by Howard Scott Warshaw, the same guy who made Yar's Revenge? Talk about a fall from grace. The game was so bad that some people believe it contributed to the video game crash of 1983. That's right, this little cartridge might have brought down an entire industry. There's a documentary about the Atari Dig called Atari Game Over. They actually found some E.T. cartridges in that landfill. See, I told you this game was legendary. Section 7, The Legacy of a Lost Boy. Why we're still talking about E.T. So why are we still talking about E.T. after all these years? What is it about this game that keeps it in our collective memory long after its initial release? Why does this one game continue to fascinate and horrify us? Is it the story behind its rushed development, or the sheer audacity of its failure? Well, for one thing, it's a reminder of a simpler time. A time when video games were a new frontier, full of uncharted possibilities and boundless excitement. A time when video games were new and exciting. The 1980s were a golden era for gaming, with each new release bringing something fresh and innovative to the table. A time when anything was possible. The industry was booming, and the sky seemed to be the limit for what could be achieved in this new digital playground. But it's also a cautionary tale. A story that serves as a stark reminder of the pitfalls that can come with rapid success and unchecked ambition. A story about the dangers of corporate greed, where the rush to capitalize on a popular movie led to a product that was far from ready for the market. The importance of quality game design and how cutting corners can lead to disastrous results, and the fickle nature of the gaming public. Gamers can be both your biggest supporters and harshest critics, and their opinions can make or break a game. E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial for the Atari 2600 is a legendary disaster. It's a game that has become synonymous with failure in the gaming industry. It's a game that's so bad, it's almost good. Its flaws are so glaring that they have become a point of fascination and amusement for gamers and historians alike. It's a relic of a bygone era, a physical piece of history that tells the story of a time when the gaming industry was still finding its footing. And it's a story that will continue to be told for years to come. As long as there are gamers who remember the early days of the industry, the tale of E.T. will live on. So, the next time you see a dusty old Atari cartridge, take a closer look. You might just be holding a piece of gaming history in your hands. It might just be a copy of E.T., and if it is, consider yourself lucky to own a piece of one of the most infamous stories in gaming. And if it is, pop it in your console and experience the legend for yourself. Feel the frustration and bewilderment that countless gamers felt back in the day. Just don't blame me if you get stuck in a pit. The game's notorious difficulty and confusing mechanics are all part of its charm, or its curse, depending on how you look at it. In the end, E.T. for the Atari 2600 is more than just a bad game. It's a cultural artifact, a lesson in the history of gaming, and a reminder of how far we've come. Today, video games are a multi-billion-dollar industry with high standards and expectations. But it's important to remember where it all started, and the bumps along the way. The story of E.T. is a testament to the growing pains of an industry that was still in its infancy. It's a story of ambition, failure, and ultimately resilience. So, let's keep talking about ET. Let's keep sharing its story, not just as a cautionary tale, but as a piece of the rich tapestry that is the history of video games. Because in the end, every game, no matter how flawed, has a story to tell. And ET's story is one that will continue to captivate and educate for generations to come. Have you ever played this game? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel for more retro gaming content. I'm the Classic and Retro Gamer. Thanks for watching.